Sometimes one moment of kindness changes everything, but Zara Williams doesn't know that yet. Rain pounds Murphy's diner at 11 p.m. Zara, 22, African-American, finishes her shift, exhaustion etched in every movement. Through the steamed window, she sees him, an elderly white man struggling with his walker, soaked and trembling in the storm. Her manager, Rick, yells about closing duties. Her phone buzzes with overdue bills. Tomorrow's problems crowd her mind. But the old man stumbles. Without hesitation, Zara grabs her umbrella and steps into the rain. "Sir, are you okay?" Theodore Whitman, 72, distinguished despite his confusion, looks up with startled, intelligent eyes. Rain has plastered his silver hair to his forehead. His expensive wool coat tells a story that doesn't match his vulnerable state. I can't remember," he whispers. Zara takes his arm gently. "It's okay. I'll help you get home." Neither knows this single act of compassion will expose a web of corruption and transform both their lives forever. The storm shows no mercy. Water cascades down gutters, turning sidewalks into rivers. Zara's umbrella barely covers both of them as she guides Theodore through the flooded streets. "What's your address, sir?" she asks, steadying him as he navigates around a deep puddle. "Beacon Hill, I think." His voice wavers with uncertainty. "The house with blue shutters. My wife painted them blue because—" He pauses, confusion clouding his features. "I can't remember why." Zara's heart clenches. Her own grandmother had the same lost look before she passed. "That's okay. We'll figure it out together." They walk slowly, Theodore's walker clicking against wet pavement. Zara shivers in her thin uniform, but she doesn't complain. Her phone buzzes again, another overdue notice. $347 might as well be $3,000. After rent, groceries, and her share of utilities in the cramped studio she splits with her roommate Maya, there's nothing left. "You're very kind," Theodore murmurs. "Most people would have walked by." "My grandmother taught me better," Zara replies, though she wonders if kindness is a luxury she can't afford. Tomorrow she'll work a double shift at the community center daycare, then rush back to Murphy's for the evening rush. Still won't be enough. As they climb the steep streets of Beacon Hill, everything changes. The cracked sidewalks give way to pristine brick walkways. Streetlights illuminate perfectly manicured gardens. Historic brownstones and federal-style mansions line the streets like monuments to old money. Zara has cleaned houses in this neighborhood before, always through the service entrance, always invisible. Here, Theodore stops before a towering three-story mansion with those blue shutters, wrought iron gates, limestone steps, windows that cost more than Zara's annual income. A brass plaque reads, "Whitman Estate, 1847. "This is your home?" The words slip out before she can stop them. Theodore fumbles for his keys, hands shaking. 43 years. Margaret will be worried. She always waits up. Through the frosted glass door, Zara glimpses crystal chandeliers, oil paintings, marble floors. It's like peering into a different universe, one where people don't choose between food and medicine, where student loans don't dictate life choices. "Theodore, is that you?" A warm voice calls from inside. The door opens to reveal Margaret Santos, 45, Filipina, wearing comfortable scrubs, relief flooding her face. "Oh, thank goodness. I was about to call the police." "This young lady helped me," Theodore says, his voice stronger now that he's home. "I got confused in the rain." Margaret's eyes meet Zara's with profound gratitude. "Thank you so much. He has good days and bad days, but storms make everything worse." Zara nods, understanding more than she says. "I'm just glad he's safe." Theodore reaches into his wallet, leather that probably costs more than Zara's monthly rent. He pulls out a business card embossed with an elegant script. "For your kindness." The card reads, "Theodore Whitman, Professor Emeritus, Harvard Law School." Zara's breath catches. Harvard Law. She's heard that name before, but where? Something about civil rights cases, landmark decisions. I don't need payment, she says, trying to hand back the card. Keep it, Theodore insists, his eyes clearer now. You never know when you might need a lawyer. Margaret helps Theodore inside, but he pauses at the threshold. Young lady, what's your name? Zara. Zara Williams. Zara Williams, he repeats, as if committing it to memory. Thank you for seeing me as human, not invisible. The heavy door closes, leaving Zara alone in the rain. She stares at the card, raindrops beating on the expensive paper. A Harvard law professor, living in a mansion that could house 50 families like hers. The contrast hits her like a physical blow. An hour ago, she was counting tips in a greasy diner. Now she's standing in Boston's most exclusive neighborhood, holding a connection to one of the world's most prestigious universities. Her phone buzzes. Maya texting, "Rent due tomorrow. Are you good?" Zara looks up at the mansion, then at the card in her hand. Two worlds separated by more than distance. She slips the card into her pocket and begins the long walk home to her reality. A shared studio apartment where she'll sleep on the couch and wake up to do it all again. But something has shifted. Call it hope. Call it foolishness. She can't shake the feeling that tonight changed everything. Morning light filters through the cracked window of Zara's studio apartment, revealing the brutal truth of her world. She sleeps on a pull-out couch while her roommate Maya, 23, Latina, occupies the single bedroom. Clothes hang from makeshift lines. A hot plate serves as their kitchen. Zara's phone alarm screams at 6 a.m. 3 hours of sleep after last night's storm. Her body aches as she stumbles to the tiny bathroom they share with two other tenants down the hall. Theodore's business card sits on the makeshift nightstand, a small piece of expensive paper that feels like evidence of a dream. "Mail's here," Maya calls out, her voice tight with worry. Zara freezes. Nothing good ever comes in the morning mail. She emerges from the bathroom to find Maya holding 3 envelopes, each one a harbinger of disaster. The first, final notice, eviction proceedings. You have 72 hours to vacate the premises or face forcible removal. Zara's legs nearly give out. But we paid rent. We always pay rent. Look at the second one, Maya whispers. Federal Student Loan Services. Default warning. Your account is now 90 days delinquent. Immediate payment of $1,247 required to avoid wage garnishment. The third envelope bears an official seal. Municipal Housing Authority, City of Boston. Zara's hands shake as she tears it open. The letterhead is imposing, cold. The language clinical and devastating. Notice of Housing Code Violation. Property, 47 Meridian Street, Unit 3B. Violation, unauthorized structural modifications, illegal subdivision of residential space, health code violations. Fine assessed, $15,000. Payment due within 30 days or face additional penalties and criminal charges. $15,000? Maya's voice cracks. For what? We haven't modified anything. Zara reads further. The violations are absurd. Illegal installation of temporary walls. The curtain they hung to separate the living space. Unauthorized occupancy exceeding legal limits. 2 people in a studio. Improper food storage facilities. Their hot plate and mini fridge. Every adaptation they made to survive is now criminalized. This can't be legal, Zara says, but even as she speaks, she knows the truth. This is how the system works. Death by 1,000 cuts. Make poverty expensive, then punish people for being poor. Her phone rings. The community center. Zara? Director Martinez sounds tired. I'm sorry to do this over the phone, but we lost our city funding. I have to let you go. Today's your last day. The call ends. Zara stares at the phone. the final piece of her life crumbling away. Maya sits heavily on their shared couch. My cousin in Springfield said the same thing happened to her building. Suddenly everyone gets violations, huge fines. 6 months later, luxury condos. The word hits like a slap. Gentrification. Zara walks to their single window and looks out at Meridian Street. Across the way, construction crews are gutting a building identical to theirs. A sign promises luxury studios starting at $3,200 a month. Her neighborhood, where families have lived for generations, where her grandmother taught her to be strong, is being erased. Replaced by coffee shops that charge $6 for a latte, boutiques selling $100 candles, restaurants where the servers make more than she does. But this feels different, coordinated. The timing is too perfect. She pulls out Theodore's business card, studying the Harvard Law emblem. Last night, she helped someone from a world of privilege. This morning, that same world is crushing her. The irony tastes bitter. She showed kindness to power, and power responded by destroying her life. We can't pay $15,000, Maya says quietly. We can barely afford groceries. Zara's phone buzzes with a text from her manager at Murphy's. Need you for an extra shift tonight, Susie called out. Extra shift. More hours on her feet, more quarters in tips. Fighting over scraps while somewhere in Beacon Hill, people debate which wine to serve with dinner. She thinks about Theodore's confusion, his vulnerable state. How easily she could have walked past. Part of her wishes she had. But another part, the part that sounds like her grandmother's voice, whispers something different. Baby, sometimes the universe tests you right before it blesses you. Zara folds the violation notice and slides it into her pocket next to Theodore's card. 2 pieces of paper, one representing the system designed to crush her, the other representing what? A connection? A possibility? She doesn't know yet. But for the first time since waking up, she doesn't feel completely powerless. The community center break room smells like industrial disinfectant and broken dreams. Zara sits alone at a scratched table, her final paycheck in hand. $127.50 for 2 weeks of work. Around her, fellow staff members pack their belongings, another casualty of budget restructuring. She pulls out Theodore's business card and her cracked phone. Desperation makes people do strange things. Theodore Whitman, Harvard Law. She types into the search engine. The results explode across her screen. This isn't just any retired professor. Whitman v. Boston Housing Authority, 1967, landmark civil rights case. Theodore Whitman leads charge against discriminatory housing practices. Harvard's youngest tenured professor fights for fair housing. Photo after photo shows a younger Theodore, handsome, passionate, standing beside protesters, speaking at podiums, shaking hands with civil rights leaders. Headlines span decades. Housing discrimination lawsuits, tenant protection cases, legal aid clinics. Zara's heart pounds. This man built his career fighting the exact injustices destroying her life right now. She scrolls deeper. Theodore Whitman's daughter follows in father's footsteps. Elizabeth Whitman Cross. Federal judge. Appointed to the First Circuit Court of Appeals. Her bio reads like a legal superhero's resume. Harvard Law Review, Supreme Court clerk, Civil Rights Division attorney, now one of the most respected federal judges in New England. The daughter of the man she helped last night has the power to stop what's happening to her neighborhood. Zara screenshots everything, her mind racing. Then she searches Boston housing violations gentrification and finds article after article documenting the same pattern. Mysterious violations, impossible fines, families displaced, luxury developments rising in their place. One article from the Boston Herald makes her blood run cold. Housing crisis hits Meridian Street. Families face massive fines. The photo shows her building. Her neighbors gathered on the sidewalk, holding violation notices identical to hers. The reporter quotes City Inspector Frank Morrison. "We're just enforcing existing codes. These properties have been substandard for years." But the article's timeline is damning. Every violation notice is dated within the same week. Every fine is exactly $15,000. Every property owned by the same management company, now suddenly for sale to the same developer. Zara's hands shake as she prints the article. This isn't random bureaucracy. It's systematic destruction. Her supervisor, Maria, approaches, sympathy in her weathered face. "Mija, I'm sorry about all this. 27 years I've worked here, never seen anything like it." "Maria, can I ask you something? These budget cuts, was it really about money?" Maria glances around, then leans closer. "My husband works for the city. Says there's pressure from developers. They want this whole area renewed. Make space for people who can afford to live here." The pieces click into place. The community center served mostly low-income families. Its closure removes a support system, makes the neighborhood less desirable for current residents, and more attractive for displacement. Zara folds the article carefully and stands. "I have to go." "Where?" "To see someone for justice." The T-ride to Beacon Hill costs $2.75 she can't afford, but some investments pay dividends in ways money can't measure. As the subway carries her from her crumbling neighborhood toward Theodore's mansion, Zara studies the article and the business card. Two worlds colliding. The helper now needs help. But this time, she's not walking blind into the storm. She's walking armed with knowledge, with purpose, with the understanding that sometimes the universe places exactly the right person in your path at exactly the right moment. The train emerges from underground, and Beacon Hill's pristine streets stretch before her like a promise. The brass doorbell at the Whitman mansion chimes with old-world elegance. Zara clutches the printed article and violation notice, her heart hammering against her ribs. Through the frosted glass, she sees movement, footsteps on marble floors. Margaret Santos opens the door, recognition lighting her kind face. "Zara, what a wonderful surprise." Then she notices Zara's expression. "Honey, what's wrong?" "I need to speak with Mr. Whitman. It's important." Margaret's face clouds with concern. "He's having a difficult morning. The storm last night. Sometimes it takes a few days for him to feel settled. Please, it's about last night. About why I helped him." Something in Zara's voice makes Margaret step aside. "Come in." The mansion's interior steals Zara's breath. 19-foot ceilings, crystal chandeliers, Persian rugs that probably cost more than her family has ever owned. Oil paintings of stern-faced ancestors watch from gilded frames. But it's the photos on the mantel that capture her attention. Theodore through the decades, always fighting, always standing with the powerless. "Theodore?" Margaret calls gently. "You have a visitor." Theodore sits in a leather wingback chair by the window, sunlight illuminating his silver hair. He looks smaller than last night, more fragile. A half-finished crossword puzzle rests in his lap. I'm not expecting anyone," he murmurs, confusion evident. Zara approaches slowly. "Mr. Whitman, it's Zara, from last night. I helped you walk home in the rain." Theodore's eyes search her face, pupils dilating as memory struggles against fog. Then, like sunrise breaking through clouds, recognition floods his features. "The angel in the storm." His voice grows stronger, more focused. "You didn't have to help me, but you did. Without question, without hesitation." He sits straighter. "Margaret, this is the young woman I told you about." "She walked you home in that terrible weather," Margaret says, offering Zara a chair. "We're both grateful." "Actually, I came because I need help." Zara's voice cracks slightly. "The same kind of help you used to give people." She hands him the article and violation notice. Theodore puts on reading glasses, his transformation remarkable. The confused elderly man disappears, replaced by the sharp legal mind that fought housing discrimination for decades. $15,000 for curtains and a hot plate, he mutters, scanning the document. Same tactics, different decade. His eyes narrow as he reads the Boston Herald article. Morrison, Frank Morrison. I remember his father. Same corruption, same greed. You know him? The family business. Theodore's voice hardens. His father was taking bribes in the 70s. Apple doesn't fall far. He stands, moving to an antique desk with practiced purpose. Margaret, get me my phone. The secure line.
Theodore, are you sure you're...
I'm perfectly clear, thank you. Authority rings in his voice. This young woman showed me kindness when I was vulnerable. Now she's being systematically destroyed by the same forces I've fought my entire career. He dials a number from memory. James? Theodore Whitman? Yes, I know what time it is. No, my mind is fine. James, I need you to take a case. Emergency housing matter. No, pro bono. Because I'm asking. And you owe me 3 favors from the Patterson case. Zara listens in amazement as Theodore deploys connections built over 40 years of legal practice. Excellent. Her name is Zara Williams, 47 Meridian Street, Unit 3B. He winks at Zara. Send the retainer bill to me personally. All expenses covered. James, this is important. They're targeting the entire community. The call ends. Theodore immediately dials another number. Harvard Legal Aid Clinic? This is Professor Emeritus Whitman. I need to speak with Director Carter about an urgent housing matter. Mass displacement in the South End. Yes, I'll hold on. While waiting, he turns to Zara. James Mitchell is the best housing lawyer in New England. Expensive as hell, but worth every penny. He'll file an emergency motion for extension tomorrow morning. Mr. Whitman, I can't afford... You're not paying. Theodore's tone brooks no argument. Consider the payment for last night. Though honestly, I'm getting the better deal. Director Carter? Theodore Whitman? Yes, it has been too long. Listen, I need your students to investigate a pattern of housing violations in the South End. Systematic displacement. I'll email you the details within the hour. Another call completed. Margaret brings tea, her expression a mixture of concern and admiration. Theodore, maybe you should pace yourself. One more call. His fingers hover over the keypad, then he looks at Zara. My daughter. Federal Judge Elizabeth Whitman Cross. She has jurisdiction over civil rights violations. He dials, and Zara can hear the phone ringing. Elizabeth? It's Dad. I'm fine. Margaret is here. No, this isn't about my health. I need to discuss a civil rights matter with you. A long pause. Zara can hear a woman's voice on the other end, but can't make out words. I understand judicial ethics, Elizabeth. I'm not asking you to prejudge anything. I'm asking you to be aware that a complaint may cross your desk. Housing discrimination, systematic displacement, possible federal civil rights violations. Another pause, longer this time. Her name is Zara Williams. She helped your father last night, and now she's being targeted by the same corruption I fought in the 60s. Elizabeth, please. This matters. The call ends, and Theodore looks troubled for the first time since his lucid moment began. She'll consider it, he says carefully. But she's concerned about the appearance of impropriety. Federal judges must be extraordinarily careful. Zara's heart sinks slightly, but Theodore continues. However, she did say that if proper complaints are filed through proper channels, she'll review them like any other case. His phone rings. James Mitchell calling back. James, that was fast. Excellent. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., emergency motion granted? Outstanding. Theodore turns to Zara, triumph in his eyes. Emergency 30-day extension on your eviction. Buys us time to fight. Zara feels tears threatening. In 2 hours, this man has mobilized an army of legal expertise on her behalf. Why are you doing this? Because last night, when I was lost and vulnerable, you saw me as human. You didn't see a confused old man. You saw someone who needed help. Theodore's voice grows emotional. In 60 years of legal practice, I learned that justice isn't about laws or precedent. It's about people choosing to do right by each other. Margaret squeezes Zara's hand. He's been talking about the angel in the storm since you left last night. Said it reminded him why he became a lawyer in the first place. Theodore returns to his desk, energy renewed. Now let's discuss strategy. Corruption, this systematic leaves traces. We just have to know where to look. Over the next week, Zara finds herself returning to the Whitman mansion each evening after her shifts at Murphy's. What started as gratitude has evolved into something deeper: purpose. Theodore's good days are remarkable. His mind sharpens, decades of legal wisdom flowing like water from a broken dam. His bad days require patience, gentle redirections, reminders of who and where he is. Tonight is a good day. Lift your left leg higher, Zara encourages, guiding him through physical therapy exercises Margaret showed her. That's it, Mr. Whitman. Call me Teddy, he insists, struggling with balance exercises. Mr. Whitman was my father. The living room walls tell the story of his life. Framed headlines, court victories, photos spanning 5 decades of civil rights work. Zara studies them while Teddy rests between exercises. That's from 1967. Teddy follows her gaze to a faded photograph. The Meridian Street protests. Zara freezes. Meridian Street? My street? Your building, actually. Same fight, different generation. Teddy's eyes grow distant but clear. They called it urban renewal then. Promised better housing, better opportunities. Instead, they displaced 300 families. In the photo, a young Theodore stands beside protesters holding signs, "Fair housing now," and "Justice delayed is justice denied." But Zara's attention locks on a teenage girl beside him, fist raised in defiance. Is that Elizabeth, 17 years old, angrier than a hornet about injustice? Teddy smiles sadly. She used to say the law was supposed to protect people, not property values. What changed? Life. Law school. The system teaches you to work within boundaries, even when those boundaries protect the wrong people. Teddy's voice grows thoughtful. But sometimes you meet someone who reminds you that true power isn't what the system gives you. It's what you choose to do with whatever power you have. Zara helps him back to his chair. Your lawyer friend called today. Says the motion bought us time, but Morrison is fighting back hard. Of course he is. Corruption doesn't surrender easily. Teddy grips her hand with surprising strength. But here's what I learned in 40 years of legal practice. Justice delayed isn't justice denied. It's justice gathering strength. What if we're not strong enough? Teddy's eyes sparkled with the fire that built his reputation. Then we get stronger. We find allies. We build coalitions. We remember that true power comes from choosing to stand up even when standing up hurts. Outside, rain begins to fall again. But this time, it sounds like a promise. The knock on Zara's door comes at 6 a.m., sharp and official. Through the peephole, she sees badges, clipboards, and the cold satisfaction of bureaucratic power. Boston Municipal Housing Authority, open up! Zara's stomach drops. The 30-day extension was supposed to protect them. She opens the door to find Frank Morrison, 52, thick-necked, dead eyes, flanked by 2 police officers and a woman with a camera. Ms. Williams, I'm Inspector Morrison. We've received additional complaints about this property. His voice carries the practiced authority of someone who enjoys wielding power over the powerless. Complaints? What complaints? Morrison consults his clipboard with theatrical precision. Anonymous tip about illegal substances, health code violations, potential fire hazards. We have a warrant to inspect the premises. He pushes past her without waiting for permission. The officers follow, their presence transforming her home into a crime scene. Other tenants peer from doorways. The Rodriguez family, elderly Mrs. Carter, college student Jamal, all wearing the same expression of helpless dread. "Maya!" Zara calls to her roommate, who emerges from the bedroom in pajamas, clutching her nursing textbooks. "What's happening?" Morrison and his team tear through their tiny space like investigators searching for evidence of mass destruction. They photograph everything: the hot plate, the curtain divider, the mini fridge, the carefully organized corner where Zara sleeps. "Illegal electrical modifications," Morrison announces, pointing at their power strip. "Unauthorized room division," he indicates their privacy curtain. "Improper food storage and preparation facilities." "That's ridiculous," Maya protests. "Half the city lives like this." Morrison's smile is reptilian. "Half the city hasn't come to our attention." The woman with the camera, Inspector Torres, documents violations that didn't exist until Morrison created them. A coffee mug becomes improper dishware storage. Zara's textbooks from community college become fire hazard materials improperly stacked. "Wait," Zara says, recognition dawning. "You're the inspector from the newspaper article, Frank Morrison." Morrison's eyes narrow. "You read about my work?" "Your work is destroying families. I enforce housing codes. If families can't afford to live legally, they should find accommodations within their means." Morrison's voice drips with contempt. "Perhaps government assistance housing is more suitable to your circumstances." The officers move through the building systematically. Zara hears doors opening, voices raised in protest, children crying. Mrs. Carter pleads in broken English. The Rodriguez family attempts to explain their situation in Spanish to officers who don't care enough to understand. Morrison hands Zara a freshly printed violation notice. 72 hours to remedy all violations or face immediate eviction and criminal charges. The list is impossibly long. Remove all unauthorized room divisions. Restore original electrical configuration. Install commercial-grade kitchen facilities. Reduce occupancy to legal limits. Provide documentation of landlord-approved modifications. "This is insane," Maya breathes, reading over Zara's shoulder. "These violations would cost $20,000 to fix." "Then perhaps you should have considered that before choosing to live here illegally," Morrison says. Something in his tone triggers a memory. Zara stares at his face, then pulls out her phone and searches Morrison Boston Municipal. The results make her blood freeze. A photo from 3 months ago. Morrison at a ribbon-cutting ceremony, shaking hands with Richard Blackstone, CEO of Blackstone Development, the same company buying every property his inspections condemn. "You son of a bitch," Zara whispers. Morrison steps closer, invasion of personal space as intimidation tactic. "Excuse me?" "Blackstone Development. You condemn the buildings, they buy them cheap, then build luxury condos." Zara's voice grows stronger despite her fear. "This isn't code enforcement. It's theft." "Careful, Ms. Williams. Accusations against city officials can be considered harassment." "Truth isn't harassment." Morrison signals to Torres, who photographs Zara's face with obvious malicious intent. "Note that Tenant Williams became hostile and accusatory during lawful inspection." The officers finish their sweep and return to Morrison. "Building's clear," one reports. "Violations documented throughout." Morrison addresses the gathered tenants with practiced cruelty. This property has been condemned due to multiple severe code violations. All residents have 72 hours to vacate. The building will be sealed pending demolition. Mrs. Carter collapses into sobs. The Rodriguez children cling to their parents. Jamal stares at his violation notice in disbelief. "Where are we supposed to go?" Maya demands. Not my department, Morrison shrugs. Try the shelter on Albany Street. As the inspection team prepares to leave, Zara's phone rings. The caller ID makes her heart skip. Harvard Legal Aid Clinic. Ms. Williams? This is Director Carter. I'm calling about your housing case. I'm afraid I have bad news. Zara steps away from the chaos, pressing the phone to her ear. Our funding was cut yesterday. Emergency budget restructuring. We can't take on any new cases. But Professor Whitman said, I'm sorry. The decision came from the mayor's office. All legal aid programs serving low-income housing are suspended pending review. The call ends. Zara stares at her phone, pieces clicking into place with sickening clarity. Maya, she calls out. What's the name of that administrator who fired you from your work-study job? Martinez. Said the funding got pulled. Maya's face goes pale. Why? Zara searches her phone again. There it is. A photo from the city's website. Employee of the Month feature from last year. Carlos Martinez, Jr., Budget Allocation Specialist, Mayor's Office. Morrison, she calls out, her voice cutting through the chaos. Your son Carlos works for the mayor's office, doesn't he? Morrison freezes at the door. My family is none of your business. He's the one cutting funding to legal aid programs, the community center, Maya's work-study job. Your son is removing every support system that might help people fight your inspections. Morrison's mask of professional detachment slips, revealing something uglier underneath. Smart girl. Too bad smart doesn't pay rent. You're destroying entire communities, families who have lived here for generations. I'm creating opportunities for people who can afford to take advantage of them. Morrison's smile is pure malice. The city is changing, Ms. Williams. You can change with it or get changed by it. He pauses at the threshold. By the way, that old man you've been visiting, Professor Whitman, might want to be careful about associating with people under active investigation for housing violations. Wouldn't want his reputation damaged by association with criminals. The threat lands like a physical blow. Zara realizes the full scope of their trap. Fight back, and they'll destroy Theodore. Submit, and they'll destroy her community. I helped someone, she whispers to Maya as Morrison's team disappears down the stairs. I showed kindness to a stranger, and the world is punishing me for it. Outside, the sound of construction equipment grows louder. The future arrives to bury the past. Margaret Santos finds Zara sitting on the mansion's front steps at 7 a.m., clutching a cardboard box containing everything she owns. The condemned building notice flutters in the morning breeze, yellow tape sealing her former home like a crime scene. Mija, what happened? Through tears, Zara explains Morrison's raid, the impossible violations, the systematic destruction of her community. Margaret listens with growing fury, her nurse's instincts recognizing trauma when she sees it. That bastard, Margaret mutters, then catches herself. Sorry, but this is exactly what happened to my family in the Philippines. Corruption dressed up as law. Margaret helps Zara inside, where Theodore sits at his breakfast table reading the morning paper with laser focus. His good days are becoming more frequent, as if purpose is medicine for his mind. Teddy, we have a problem. Theodore looks up, takes in Zara's devastation, and his expression hardens into something Margaret recognizes from old photographs, the civil rights warrior awakening. Tell me everything. As Zara recounts Morrison's threats, Theodore makes notes in precise handwriting. His transformation is remarkable. Confusion replaced by strategic thinking. Vulnerability by determined strength. Margaret, call David Carter at the Boston Globe. Tell him Theodore Whitman needs to cash in a favor. The investigative reporter? Margaret asks. I taught his father at Harvard. David owes me for helping with his citizenship case 20 years ago. Within an hour, David Carter, 33, Asian American, carrying the weight of too many stories about injustice, arrives at the mansion. His handshake with Theodore carries decades of family gratitude. Professor Whitman, my father still talks about what you did for us. Your father earned his place here. I just removed some obstacles. Theodore's focus is sharp, purposeful. Now I need you to expose some new obstacles. David pulls out his laptop and recording device as Theodore begins connecting dots with the precision of a master strategist. 1967, Meridian Street. Same tactics, same patterns. Force out the poor, bring in the wealthy. Theodore's voice grows stronger with each connection. The players change, the methods evolve, but the corruption remains constant. David's fingers fly across his keyboard. I've been tracking housing displacement across Boston. 12 buildings in 3 months. All condemned. All bought by Blackstone Development at below-market prices. All inspected by Frank Morrison? Zara asks. Every single one. David shows them his spreadsheet. Same violations, same fines. $15,000 like they're working from a script.
You.
Margaret brings coffee and Theodore's medication, but also something else, a manila folder thick with yellowed papers. I found these in your study, she tells Theodore. Your notes from the 1960s cases. Theodore opens the folder and his eyes light up with recognition. Morrison. Frank Morrison Sr. I remember this case. His finger traces documents from 1969. Sr. was taking bribes from developers, using housing violations to displace families in Roxbury. Same last name? David leans forward. Father and son. Family business. Theodore's voice carries bitter understanding. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Zara studies the old documents. The language is nearly identical to her violation notice. The tactics unchanged across 50 years. David, I need you to investigate city records, Theodore continues. Who approved Morrison Jr.'s hiring? Who oversees his inspections? Follow the money from Blackstone to City Hall. Already started. I see. David shows them financial disclosure documents on his laptop. Mayor's re-election campaign. Blackstone Development donated $200,000 last year. And the budget cuts to legal aid? Margaret asks. Came from the mayor's office. Specifically recommended by Carlos Martinez Jr. David's research is thorough, damning. Morrison's son. Theodore stands and walks to his bookshelf, pulling down a leather-bound volume. Constitutional Law, 14th Amendment, Equal Protection under Law. He opens to a page marked with decades-old annotations. What they're doing isn't just corruption, it's a federal civil rights violation. You think Judge Whitman Cross would hear the case? Zara asks hesitantly. Theodore considers carefully. Elizabeth won't give us special treatment, but if we present proper evidence through proper channels. He pauses. She swore an oath to uphold justice. Sometimes that means ruling against the comfortable to protect the afflicted. David's phone buzzes with incoming emails. Professor, my editor wants to run with this story, front page, Sunday edition. Not yet. Theodore's strategic mind is fully engaged. We need more evidence. Hard proof of coordination between Morrison, his son, and Blackstone. What kind of proof? Theodore's eyes gleam with the cunning that won landmark cases. The kind that comes from making corrupt people think they're untouchable. Pride makes men careless, David. And Morrison's pride is about to become his downfall. Margaret squeezes Zara's hand. You're not fighting this alone anymore, Mija. You've got an army now. Outside, the sound of construction equipment continues. But now it sounds less like destruction and more like the machinery of justice grinding slowly into motion. Sunday morning breaks gray and cold, but the Whitman mansion buzzes with electric anticipation. David's expose hits the Boston Globe website at 6 a.m., and by 8 a.m. it's viral. Father and son corruption. How 2 generations of Morrisons profited from housing displacement. Theodore sits in his study, watching social media explode with outrage. His testimony anchors the story. Detailed documentation of identical corruption patterns spanning 50 years. Father and son using the same playbook to destroy communities for profit. 12,000 shares in 2 hours, David reports via phone. City Hall is in full damage control mode. Zara paces the living room, energy crackling through her like lightning. After weeks of feeling powerless, seeing Morrison's crimes spread across every screen in Boston feels like oxygen after drowning. The mayor's office issued a statement, Margaret reads from her tablet. Says they're launching an internal investigation. Internal investigation? Theodore scoffs. Translation, how quickly can we bury this? His phone rings, the private line. Theodore's expression grows serious as he listens. Elizabeth, I was wondering when you'd call. Zara can hear Judge Whitman Cross's voice through the speaker, crisp and professional. Dad, I need to see you. Now. Officially and unofficially. Both? The unofficial part is about a father who taught his daughter to fight for justice. The official part is about a federal civil rights complaint that just landed on my desk. Theodore's eyes meet Zara's, and something passes between them. Understanding, vindication, hope. We'll be here. 2 hours later, a black sedan pulls up to the mansion. Judge Elizabeth Whitman Cross, 45, commanding presence, her father's intensity refined by decades of judicial authority, emerges wearing weekend clothes but carrying herself with the weight of federal power. Margaret opens the door, and Elizabeth's first words surprise everyone. You must be Zara Williams. Your Honor, Zara begins, but Elizabeth raises a hand. Elizabeth, I'm here as Theodore's daughter first, federal judge second. Her handshake is firm, her eyes searching. Thank you for taking care of my father. He's been taking care of me. Theodore appears, moving slowly but with dignity. Father and daughter embrace, and Zara sees decades of shared battles in that simple gesture. Dad, your testimony in that article, it's brilliant, devastating. Elizabeth's professional admiration is clear. You connected patterns I couldn't see. Because you've been thinking like a judge, not an activist. Theodore's voice carries gentle criticism. Sometimes the system needs shaking, not just interpreting. Elizabeth turns to Zara. I need to hear your story. All of it. From the beginning. They sit in Theodore's study, surrounded by 50 years of civil rights history. Zara tells her story. The rainy night, Theodore's confusion, her own desperation, Morrison's systematic cruelty. Elizabeth listens with the focused intensity of someone weighing evidence and moral obligations. Show me the building, Elizabeth says suddenly. What? Your condemned building. I need to see it. Margaret drives them across town in Theodore's vintage Mercedes, the contrast jarring as they leave Beacon Hill's privilege for the working-class reality of Meridian Street. Elizabeth sits beside Zara in the back seat, watching Boston transform outside the windows. I grew up fighting these battles, Elizabeth says quietly. Dad used to take me to housing protests. I thought we'd won. You did win, Zara replies. For a while. But they just learned to be more sophisticated. The condemned building stands wrapped in yellow tape like a crime scene. Elizabeth exits the car and studies the structure with legal precision, noting details invisible to untrained eyes. Solid construction. Well maintained. Nothing here justifies condemnation. Mrs. approaches hesitantly, recognizing authority when she sees it. In halting English, she explains 40 years of living in the building, raising children, watching the neighborhood change. Morrison came with police, she says, tears threatening. Made us feel like criminals for being poor. Elizabeth's jaw tightens. 3 more displaced families emerge, drawn by the presence of someone who might listen. Their stories pour out, Systematic harassment, impossible fines, threats of prosecution for violations that didn't exist until Morrison created them. Your Honor, says Carlos Rodriguez, holding his violation notice, my family has lived here since I was born. 34 years. Never caused trouble, always paid rent. Now they say we're criminals. Elizabeth accepts the violation notice, studying Morrison's signature with the sharp focus of federal authority finally engaged. Mr. Rodriguez, how many families received identical fines on the same day? 12. Same amount, same violations, same inspector. Elizabeth looks at Zara. Same inspector whose son controls legal aid funding? Yes. Something ignites behind Elizabeth's eyes. The same fire that burned in her father's generation. This isn't housing enforcement. This is a conspiracy. Her phone rings. Judge Whitman Cross? Yes, I'll accept the call. Mr. Mayor. She steps away, but her voice carries. No, sir, I haven't seen the article. Yes, I understand your concerns about negative publicity. No, sir, federal jurisdiction doesn't depend on local political considerations. The call ends, and Elizabeth's transformation is complete. The conflicted daughter becomes the federal judge who swore to protect constitutional rights. Zara, I need you to file a formal complaint. Civil rights violation under the Fair Housing Act. Conspiracy to deprive citizens of constitutional protections. Will that stop the evictions? Emergency federal injunction, effective immediately. Elizabeth's voice carries the authority of the federal court system. No one else gets displaced while we investigate. Theodore, who has been quietly observing, steps forward. Elizabeth, there's something else you should know. This isn't just about housing. He hands her David's follow-up research, financial connections between Blackstone Development, the mayor's office, Morrison's inspections, and his son's budget decisions. They're not just stealing homes, Theodore explains. They're dismantling every system designed to help people fight back. Legal aid, community centers, work-study programs. It's systematic oppression disguised as municipal efficiency. Elizabeth's expression grows thunderous. Dad, this is RICO territory, federal racketeering charges. I was hoping you'd see it that way. Elizabeth pulls out her phone and dials a number from memory. U.S. Attorney's Office? This is Judge Whitman Cross. I need to speak with the Public Corruption Unit. Yes, it's urgent. Federal civil rights violations with potential RICO implications. As Elizabeth coordinates with federal prosecutors, Theodore puts his arm around Zara's shoulders. You asked me once why I was helping you, he says quietly. Here's the real answer. True power isn't what you can take from others. It's what you choose to give to others. You gave me purpose when I felt lost. Now watch what happens when that purpose finds its target. David arrives with news that sends electricity through the crowd. Morrison just got arrested at his home. Federal agents, Civil Rights Task Force. It's happening. Elizabeth ends her call and addresses the gathered families with judicial authority and personal conviction. By federal court order, all evictions are stayed pending investigation. This building remains your home. Mr. Morrison and his associates are under federal investigation for conspiracy to violate civil rights. The crowd erupts in cheers, but Elizabeth isn't finished. More importantly, Ms. Williams has agreed to serve as lead plaintiff in a federal lawsuit seeking damages and systemic reform. This isn't just about one building. It's about protecting communities across Boston from this kind of abuse. Zara feels the weight of unexpected leadership settling on her shoulders. From powerless waitress to federal plaintiff in the space of 3 weeks. What happens now? She asks. Theodore's eyes sparkle with pride. Now, my dear, you become the voice for everyone who can't speak for themselves. Justice isn't just about winning cases. It's about creating a world where people like you don't need lawyers like me to be treated fairly. Elizabeth adds, and now we make sure this never happens again. 3 months later, The community room at 47 Meridian Street overflows with celebration. What was once a condemned building now hosts its first tenant meeting as a federally protected housing complex. Zara stands before gathered families, no longer the exhausted waitress in a stained uniform. Today, she wears a navy blazer Theodore insisted on buying, her voice carrying new authority. "The Whitman-Williams Housing Protection Act passed yesterday," she announces. "No family in Massachusetts can be displaced through systematic harassment again." Applause erupts. Mrs. dabs her eyes. The Rodriguez children cheer. Jamal grins from his corner, now a pre-law student inspired by everything he witnessed. Theodore sits in front, Margaret beside him, watching with quiet pride. His walker rests against his chair, but his mind is clear. Purpose has become medicine for his failing memory. Elizabeth approaches the microphone, federal authority softened by emotion. "This legislation exists because one young woman chose kindness on a rainy night." She looks at Zara. "That act exposed corruption that stole from hundreds of families." That's his David documents from the back, his expose having sparked investigations in 12 cities. However, Elizabeth continues, legislation needs enforcement, which is why Zara Williams has accepted a position as community legal advocate with Mitchell, Steinberg, and Associates. More applause. Theodore beams as Zara accepts congratulations. Later, as families drift home to apartments they no longer fear losing, Zara finds Theodore on the front steps, looking at windows glowing with secure lives. "Regrets about helping a stranger?" he asks. "Never." Zara sits beside him. "You taught me something important." "What's that?" "True power isn't what you can take. It's what you choose to give." Theodore recognizes his daughter's words, now Zara's guiding principle. "You learned that before I taught it. That night in the rain, you chose kindness to someone who couldn't repay you." "But you did repay me." "No," Theodore says gently. "You repaid yourself. I just helped you find tools you already possessed." Margaret emerges with car keys. "Ready to go home?" Theodore stands slowly, accepting Zara's arm. "We're already home. Sometimes home isn't a place. It's people who choose to see you as worth saving." Walking toward the car, Zara feels the transformation's weight. 6 months ago, she counted quarters after brutal shifts. Tonight, she carries business cards reading, "Community Legal Advocate." Rain begins falling, gentle this time, nourishing rather than threatening. Zara doesn't run for cover. She's learned that sometimes storms bring exactly what you need. 6 months later, rain patters against the windows of Mitchell, Steinberg, and Associates as Zara Williams reviews case files at her desk. The nameplate reads, "Community Legal Advocate," but the real measure of change sits in the stack of housing discrimination cases she's won. Her phone displays a text from Maya. "Nursing school graduation next week. Thanks for believing I could do it." Zara smiles, remembering how Theodore's connections helped Maya transfer to a better program after the housing crisis. Theodore enters, moving slowly but purposefully. His good days outnumber the bad ones now, and purpose has strengthened both his memory and resolve. "The Rodriguez family case?" he asks. "Settlement approved. 50,000 in damages plus guaranteed housing protection." Zara closes the file with satisfaction. That's 12 families helped this month. 12 families who might have been invisible otherwise. Through the window, construction crews work on the new affordable housing complex, built where Blackstone Development planned luxury condos. Morrison's corruption trial made headlines, but the real victory lives in the families who kept their homes. A young law student knocks on Zara's door. "Ms. Williams? I read about your case. I want to help families like you helped." Zara stands, extending her hand. "Then let's get started, because kindness isn't just about one rainy night. It's about every choice we make to see each other as human." Theodore adjusts his tie, preparing for his lecture at Harvard Law School. Ready to change more minds? Always. One person at a time. Outside, the rain continues, but now it sounds like a promise. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to Black Soul Stories for more stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. What's one act of kindness that changed your life? Share it in the comments below.